All right, welcome back to the channel. We got our weekly stock market update coming to you a little early this week. I'll be out of town for the weekend, and I was out of town last weekend, so we got a few weeks to catch up on. We're going to start off by looking at the heat maps here for this is a monthly heat map, so 4 weeks, and we can see we got a lot of green here. So we got some stocks like Google up 20%, Apple up 18%, Berkshire Hathaway up 10%, Amazon 10%, Tesla 10%, and some of the laggards here are going to be NVIDIA down 4%, Microsoft 5%, Meta down 4%, and some of the utilities and manufacturing companies down as well. So pretty strong looking heat map here when it comes to individual names. And when we look at the ETFs, you've got the NASDAQ up almost 2% and the S&P 500 up almost 3%. And then you've got gold, which is on a ripper here, up 5%, and Bitcoin is down about 4%. So we'll look at some of these individual names here in just a moment. As far as crypto world, Ethereum up 15% over the last month, and Bitcoin is down 4% here over the last month. If we look at the actual charts here, so you can see Bitcoin hit the all-time high around 125, and we're just slowly pulling back. Nothing too exciting here either way, not a huge pullback, not a huge recovery. We're just kind of slowly bleeding to the downside. And Ethereum had a huge move up, and we're holding this level pretty well. Wouldn't surprise me if we come down to around 4,000 and then see what the market wants to do with Ethereum from there. And then if we look at volatility, we'll get a few spikes here and there when it comes to the volatility, but they just bleed out so quick. And you'll see that when we look at the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. We'll get a sharp pullback for 1 or 2 days, and then immediately the next 3 days we're back above where that pullback started from. The buyers are super relentless here for the market, and there is just no sign of longer term weakness here. Quickly, let's look at gold breaking out here, all-time high this week. Gold is currently this is the futures. Let's take a look at actual gold here. Over 3,500 bucks, new all-time high, and just really strong last few weeks here. And that is also because the dollar has been very weak over the last handful of months here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the S&P 500. We are hitting our heads at all-time highs here. So again, we'll get these little pullbacks here. We'll go down 2%, and then it'll just take 1 or 2 days to reclaim those recent highs. Same thing here this week. 2 days of big red in a row. 2 days bounce back, almost back to all-time highs for the S&P 500. Now the NASDAQ, we are getting closer to that all-time high. We do have a set of lower highs here, so we'll see if we can break out of this within the next week or so. Possibly tomorrow. There's a big jobs number coming out tomorrow morning, so we'll see how the market responds to that. But market looking very strong. Again, we get a little dip, bought right up. Little dip, bought right up. Little dip, bought right up. So we are seeing any dips continually be bought up. No sign of weakness for the market. All right, let's take a look at some individual names. Before we do that, interest rates, 10-year yield getting close to this line that we've had here for what feels like a year plus. So we'll see if we can get interest rates to drop below here. We do have a Federal Reserve meeting this week or this month, and the market is anticipating that they start to cut rates again. So we'll see what that looks like. As far as some other economic data, jobs reports keep looking a little bit weak. The jobs numbers keep coming in a little bit soft. Unemployment a little bit higher. We do have a big number tomorrow, so we'll see what that looks like. So we'll see if that can also move interest rates. All right, individual names. Let's start off here with Amazon. Amazon had a big pop today. I really don't know why. I couldn't tell you what the news was for Amazon, but I will take it. 5% pop here for Amazon, and we are getting near the all-time high of 242. So we are a stone's throw away from all-time high for Amazon. Tesla just kind of chopping sideways here, not doing a whole lot, but holding up a little bit better. It does look like they will possibly have their best quarter ever when it comes to deliveries. A lot of people are buying Tesla vehicles before the tax credit goes away. So you're seeing the prediction markets heavily sway towards a 500,000 delivery quarter for Tesla, which will be their best ever. So hopefully that will happen. And then what happens after that, we'll see. Maybe that's so much demand pulled forward because of the credit that the next few quarters are soft. Or maybe there's just a huge demand for their new vehicles, the updated Model Y, the updated Model 3. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. Google had a very nice move here, a breakout of the all-time high. So Google's at 232. This big jump that we had was because the judge did rule that Google does not need to sell its Chrome browser. And I believe it also said that it can continue its deal with Apple. So Google pays Apple, I believe it's $20 billion a year for Google to be the default search engine on Apple devices. A judge a few years ago ruled that that is unfair, and an antitrust lawsuit was going through. Now the judge said, go ahead, keep doing what you're doing, Google, you're fine. So I didn't realize that that was that much of an overhang on the stock. But that is good news for Google, and Google's just a phenomenal business. Just we can see down here on the earnings, they just beat, and this is a wonderful, wonderful business. All right, NVIDIA pulling back a little bit from its earnings. We did not do an earnings update on NVIDIA, so let's take a look at the numbers right now. So for Q2 2026, revenue of $47 billion, that is up 56% year over year. Data center up 56% year over year for $41 billion in data center revenue for 3 months. So phenomenal there. Every segment of their business is growing and growing double digits. Gaming is growing 49% year over year, and automotive is growing 69% year over year. Everything's just growing. Even though these are small pieces of their business, this company is executing on all cylinders besides China sales. So this blowout number, in my opinion, does not include any sales to China because that is not legal for them to do right now. So I do think that'll get resolved sometime this year, and there will be a way for them to sell something to China. And when they do, that's probably another $20 billion of annual revenue coming NVIDIA's way. So not only is the revenue up, most of that revenue is profit. So they have a $26.5 billion net profit, which is just outstanding. So again, this doesn't look real. Every time we talk about NVIDIA, this is just unbelievable growth that we see. And again, it's mostly the data center. So they are just crushing it. And this is the AI story. Data center revenue, we see that there. And one thing that I did notice here is AMD, their data center revenue, as you can see here, is trickling down. So I want AMD to succeed. I want competitors to come around with NVIDIA, but this company is just dominating the data center and the AI build out. And this, to me, we're still in early innings for this story. So great job for NVIDIA earnings. Stock market, not too impressed here, but they are expecting NVIDIA to move the world, and they did great, but they didn't move the moon and the earth. So that's why the stock is cooling off here. And it's also up 100+% from its tariff low. So how much higher is it going to go? All right, any other names we want to look at? Let's take a look at Apple, because it has been doing well here after the Google news, and we are looking like we are back in a solid uptrend here for Apple. And they do have some announcements coming out in the next couple of weeks. So chart looks good there for Apple. Palantir just kind of hanging out here. It's just consolidating sideways the last few days, last week or so. I'm looking to buy some Palantir if we get under 130, if we can get back into this box here. We'll see if we do or don't. Most likely it would take a broader market shakeout for that to happen. Some news to kind of shake the market, and everything just kind of drops 1%, 2%. If the market drops 1%, 2%, you'll see some individual names that are highly volatile, like Tesla, Palantir. Those will drop 5 to 10% within that week, and that's when I'm looking to scoop some of these stocks up. But I think that's about it. All I want to talk about. Microsoft just not doing anything after its earnings pump and dump there. You've got Meta had a nice recovery this week, but still just not doing a whole lot. And I think that's about it. So, big jobs number tomorrow. We've got the Fed decision this month, so volatility maybe creep back in September. I'm definitely noticing the market looks a little bit more normal. August trading was very sporadic and very thin. Not a lot of big whales at their desks. They are on vacation, getting their kids ready for school. So I'm starting to see some more market participation at the beginning of September, and hopefully we see that continue and going into October and then close out the year. So that's all I got for this weekly stock market update. Everyone have a great weekend, and go Seahawks, baby. We got NFL this weekend. All right, peace out.